Okay, so now we are going to look at Unit 3, Friends and Family. Okay, so just like before, we're going to start with a listening activity. So listen and circle the correct answer, and then when I play it again, you can listen and put a check under the correct name. Okay, so here we go.
Unit 3, Test. Section A, Listening.
Oh, hi, Alfredo. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. I'm fine. Listen, are you busy? Are you eating?
No. Come on in.
Thanks, but I can't stay long. Actually, can I ask a favor?
Sure, Alfredo. What is it?
Can I borrow a dictionary again?
Of course.
I wanted to look up some words online, but I can't use the computer because my son is using it for his homework.
No problem.
I'll tell you something. I don't know how he can concentrate. He plays his music too loud and does his homework at the same time. Do you hear the noise?
No, Alfredo. I don't hear anything. You know, you really can't complain. At least he's doing his homework.
Well, I guess you're right.
Now, let me get that dictionary for you.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. I owe you one.
Okay, let's listen to it one more time.
Unit 3, Test. Section A, Listening.
Oh, hi, Alfredo. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. I'm fine. Listen, are you busy? Are you eating?
No. Come on in.
Thanks, but I can't stay long. Actually, can I ask a favor?
Sure, Alfredo. What is it?
Can I borrow a dictionary again?
Of course.
I wanted to look up some words online, but I can't use the computer because my son is using it for his homework.
No problem.
I'll tell you something. I don't know how he can concentrate. He plays his music too loud and does his homework at the same time. Do you hear the noise?
No, Alfredo. I don't hear anything. You know, you really can't complain. At least he's doing his homework.
Well, I guess you're right.
Now, let me get that dictionary for you.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. I owe you one.
Okay, so let's take a look at the questions. Okay, number 1. What is the relationship between Daniel and Alfredo? So again, make a complete sentence. Okay, so we can say Daniel and Alfredo are neighbors, okay, or they are neighbors, letter C. And then number 2, where are they? And the answer is they are at home. They are at home. Okay? And then number 3, who are they talking about? So in this case, instead of what are they talking about, we can see who are they talking about. So we can say they are talking about Alfredo's son. Okay, so let's look at the second set of questions or sentences. So, who is the first speaker? And we heard someone say, "Oh, hi, Alfredo." So we know that that person is Daniel. Okay, so we can say Daniel is the first speaker. And then number 2, who comes over to his neighbor's apartment? So of course, the person who comes over is Alfredo. So Alfredo comes over to Daniel's apartment. Number 3, who borrows a dictionary? Okay, and if you remember, when you borrow, you are receiving something. And Alfredo was the one who received the dictionary. So we can say Alfredo borrows a dictionary. Okay, and in this unit we used the phrases borrow from and lend to. So we could change this and I could say, who lends a dictionary? And the answer is Daniel lends a dictionary. So Daniel lends a dictionary to Alfredo, and Alfredo borrows a dictionary from Daniel. Number 4, who can't use the computer? And the answer is Alfredo. And let me ask you, why can't he use the computer? Why can't Alfredo use the computer to look up words? Okay? And we can say, he can't use the computer because his son is using it. His son is using it to do his homework. So his son is using it. And then number 5, who doesn't complain about the noise? Okay, so we can say that Daniel doesn't complain about the noise. In fact, Daniel doesn't seem to be able to hear the noise. He doesn't seem to be able to hear the noise. So Alfredo was concerned that Daniel might be annoyed, maybe, but thankfully or fortunately, Daniel can't hear it. And then number 6, who does a favor? Okay, so the answer is Daniel. Daniel does a favor for Alfredo. He does a favor. So sometimes you hear people say, can you do a favor for me? So can you do a favor for me? Okay, and then number 7, who appreciates a favor? Who appreciates a favor? So of course, since Daniel did the favor, Alfredo appreciates it. So Alfredo appreciates the favor. And if you remember at the end, Alfredo said, I owe you one. I owe you one. And people say that when they're thankful after they have received a favor or some kind of help, and they are saying, I will help you next time, or I will do a favor for you next time. Okay? All right, let's look at exercise B and C. Let me see how far. Okay, there we go. Let's look at B first. So complete the sentences. Use because or because of. So just to review briefly, remember we use because with a clause, and a clause includes a subject and a verb. So, there are only 5 sentences, so you can do that on your own. And then because of includes a noun phrase after it, so there is no verb. Okay, so go ahead and take some time to do exercise B. You don't have to do C yet, okay, because there is more down here. So pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so number 1, she complained because of the noise, because the noise is a noun phrase. There's no verb here, so just because of the noise. Number 2, Pam borrowed the ladder because she needed to paint the ceiling. So she needed is the clause because she needed to paint the ceiling. This is the clause, and she is the subject. Needed is the verb. Number 3, they couldn't come to the party because their son was sick. So again, their son is the subject and was is the verb in this clause. Number 4, I couldn't drive because of a flat tire. So this is the noun phrase, a flat tire. And then number 5, the alarm doesn't work because it needs a new battery. So it is the subject, needs is the verb in this clause. Okay, now let's practice making questions. Okay, so since all of these statements include because, you want to use a question word, a very specific question word. What do you think it is? Yeah, we have to use why. Okay, why. So go ahead and pause the video, make questions, and continue when you're finished. Okay, so for number 1, we can ask, why did she complain? Okay, you can see that complained is past tense, so you need to use the helping verb did, and then the original verb complain. Why did she complain? She complained because of the noise. Number 2, we can ask, why did Pam borrow, let's go down, the ladder? Why did Pam borrow the ladder? She borrowed the ladder because she needed to paint the ceiling. Number 3, okay? Why couldn't they come to the party? Okay, so let me make it a little bit longer so we have more space. Okay, in this case, the helping verb is the modal. Okay, so when you have modals like could, should, would, might, may, can, will, then you need to use the modals as the helping verb. So why couldn't they come to the party? And then number 4, we can ask why could, so again you see a modal, why couldn't you drive? Okay, because of a flat tire. And finally, number 5, why doesn't the alarm work? Okay, why doesn't the alarm work? Okay, alright, so let's now look at grammar, or exercise C. Okay, so this time complete the sentences with to or enough. So if you remember, we use to plus adjective if we want to express something that's not really that good. It's usually a negative meaning. And when we use enough, so in the case of enough, we use adjective plus enough. Okay, so for to, we use to plus adjective. For enough, we use adjective plus enough. And in this meaning is usually a positive meaning, or it's neutral or satisfactory, like it's good. Okay, so go ahead and complete numbers 1 through 5, and you can pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so let's look at number 1. Okay, the apartment has 2 bedrooms. It is big enough for my wife and me and our son. Okay, so it is big enough for my wife and me and our son. We use adjective plus enough. And since the apartment has 2 bedrooms, it makes sense because one bedroom is for his wife and him, or him and his wife, and the other bedroom is for their son. Okay, number 2. She has worked for only 1 month. She is not, okay, and we have to say experienced enough for the new job. So in this case, we also have to use adjective plus enough. So experienced enough sounds good, but it says not experienced enough. So this is negative meaning because of the word not. And then number 3, the houses in that neighborhood look expensive. The prices are too high for us. So again, to plus adjective generally has a negative meaning. Okay, and then number 4, their house. Oops. Okay, there we go. Their house is too far from my house. I can only visit once a year. Okay, because it's too far. And then number 5, our apartment is not close. Oops. Close enough to our jobs. We are going to have to move. Okay, so if you remember, we also practiced making the opposite word, or not making, but using the opposite words to make the same meaning. So for example, hold on, let me change the color so you can easily tell the difference. Okay, so for example, we can say, alright, so instead of big enough, we can say, it is not too small for my wife and me and our son. So if you look at these 2 sentences, it is not too small or it is big enough, it means the same thing. So since we use too small and not in front of it, it's not a negative meaning anymore. It's a positive meaning. It's not too small. Okay, and then number 2, she is not experienced enough, okay, for the new job. So we could say she is too inexperienced. Okay, and remember the opposite of experienced is inexperienced. Okay, so she is too inexperienced for the new job. Okay, so again, practice all of these, the rest of these, number 3, 4, and 5. So first identify what is the opposite of the adjective. So for example, the opposite of big is small. The opposite of experienced is inexperienced. And then instead of using enough, use too. And then if it's too, then use enough. And consider whether you need to add not or just keep the phrase as is. Okay, so go ahead and do numbers 3, 4, and 5. You can pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so number 3, the houses in that neighborhood look expensive. The prices are, okay, it does that when it's a split page. So we can say the prices are not low enough. Oops. Okay, so the prices are too high or not low enough for us. Okay, and then number 4, their house is too far, or we can say not close enough from my house. Okay, actually, when we use far, we use from, but when we use close, we use to. So we actually need to say not close enough to my house. Okay, and then number 5, our apartment is not close enough. So very similar to this. So instead, we can use our apartment is too far from. As I mentioned, when we use far, we use from. Our apartment is too far from our jobs. We're going to have to move. All right, so now let's look at the reading and sentences. So circle correct or incorrect, or yes or no, and then if they're not correct, then change them to make them true. Okay, so you can pause the video and continue when you're finished. All right, so let's look at this story. The new neighbors. Yesterday, Sally, my neighbor, came over and had coffee. We discussed our new neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Holmes, and their 2 children. I told her that when I met Mr. and Mrs. Holmes, their 2 children were running up and down the hallway. They were knocking on all the doors and ringing all the doorbells. I asked them to watch their children. So did the other neighbors. Next, Sally told me that she met Mr. and Mrs. Holmes a few days later. This time, the children had matches and were trying to light a newspaper outside her door. She was so surprised because Mr. and Mrs. Holmes didn't say anything to the children. Then I told Sally that I tried to visit the Holmes apartment last week. There was very loud music at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was concerned. I rang the bell, but there was no answer. The parents weren't there. Afterward, Sally told me she also heard loud music from their apartment last Friday. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. On Saturday, she went to the apartment. Again, no one answered the door. Sally and I have decided that we need to do something about our new neighbors. We are going to write an email to our landlord. Okay, so let's look at the sentences. Sue and Sally complained to each other about the new neighbors. Okay, and yeah, we can see that that is true. They definitely talked about all the problems they've had with neighbors, so yes. Number 2, Sally met the Holmes family the same day as Sue. Okay, and the answer is no. We can say Sally met the Holmes family, and if you look here, a few days after Sue. Okay, a few days after Sue. Okay, and then number 3, Sue rang. Actually, real quick, you can just say Sally didn't meet the Holmes family the same day as Sue. Now that's of course a very easy way to do it. The better way is to change the actual information. Okay, and then number 3, Sue rang the bell because she wanted to welcome them. Okay, and the answer to this is also no. you can say that Sue rang the bell because she was concerned. Okay, and if you want to add more details, you can say because she was concerned about the loud music. So Sue rang the bell because she was concerned about the loud music. And then number 4, because of the Holmes children, the building is not safe. Okay, and we could probably say that it's true. And if you look at the information about the matches, we can see that the children or the building may not be safe because of the children. Okay, and then number 5, Sally wants to write an email to Mr. and Mrs. Holmes. Okay, this is not true. This is no. You can see here that Sally wants to write an email to her landlord or their landlord, since multiple people share the apartment. So you can see, you can use their, T-H-E-I-R. Okay, so now we are going to look at exercise E. Write a complaint email to the landlord of Sue and Sally's apartment building. Use enough or to. Include the date, the name of the person they are writing, the reason, examples of problems, and what they want. Okay, so if you remember from Unit 3, we talked about how to write a complaint letter, and also how to use phrases like enough and to. Okay, so practice doing that, and I will see you for our next lesson, and we will do Units 4 and 5. Okay?